Welcome to Forthright, Reader Feedback Edition. With all the angry hubbub over the pending Supreme Court decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, it was a relief to share about a project providing real choices for women while prepping for last week's column. But before reading that column about taking action on abortion instead of indulging in anger, a little context for those whose focus is on the Supreme Court. The Mississippi law in question restricts abortion after the first 15 weeks of pregnancy. Mississippi's law is actually more permissive than the laws in 23 of 27 European countries, which limit abortion after 12 weeks. One country sets the limit at 10 weeks. Only 3 countries are less restrictive, only 3 out of 27 of our European peers. They are Sweden at 18 weeks, the Netherlands at 22 weeks, and Great Britain at 24 weeks. In the same edition as the column appeared, Senator Patty Murray was reported as fuming after a party line vote to abandon limits in support of expanding abortion up until birth. All but one Senate Democrat is now on record as supporting abortion up until 40 weeks, well beyond what our European counterparts and most Americans can stomach. Senator Joe Manchin, the only Democrat to vote no, pointed out how out of step the bill is, or was, with American beliefs. And perhaps the pro-abortion folks should have let sleeping dogs lie, because Democrats may find those dogs will bite them in November. And now the column, with a follow-up interview recorded with Karen Fournier, a woman who has risen from homeless to success and is committed to building a national mission to support women contemplating abortion and facing difficult decisions. Published May 12, 2022 in the Spokane Review, titled Moving Beyond Labels to Action on Abortion. A 2019 Notre Dame study based on personal interviews instead of limited choice surveys found most Americans don't talk much about abortion and they hate being labeled. Lack of information and a fear of being dragged into the political mud keep them quiet. Meanwhile, gloomy reporting on a possible decision overturning Roe v. Wade has stirred up visions of a Taliban-like future if the Supreme Court decides it's an issue that must once again be left to each state to sort out. Barricades have been erected around the Supreme Court building in anticipation of an angry pro-choice mob attempting to storm the doors when the decision is announced. 5 of the justices have been threatened by protesting crowds on their front lawns. The uproar made last Saturday's Celebration of Mothers, sponsored by Covenant Homes and Resources, a welcome respite from a news cycle stoking fear and division. Covenant Homes is a new nonprofit focusing on offering pregnant women more choices. Executive Director Karen Fournier says the renovation of the first home is just around the corner from the local Planned Parenthood clinic and will welcome pregnant women of any age for 2 hours, 2 days, or 2 years. For women leaving difficult situations involving domestic abuse, homelessness, or addiction, Fournier says the longer the moms can stay, the healthier they get. It takes 4 months for them to feel safe and open up on what's really happening. Fournier has past experience in the nonprofit world as the founder of Hearth Homes, now operating in the Spokane Valley as Naomi Supportive Housing for single mothers and their children. After stepping back to focus on seeing her own 2 kids through high school activities, Fournier is back with a new vision. My whole life has been preparing me for this, said Fournier, herself a formerly homeless and single mom with coexisting addiction and relationship issues. We're not political, we're just giving women another option to have a safe place. Many women are not in a safe place, and that's why they're seeking abortion. American attitudes about abortion are not binary. As the Notre Dame study concludes, quote, labels are often polarizing, oversimplifying, and inaccurate for how everyday Americans actually think and feel about abortion, end quote. Binary labels fail to capture, quote, the ways that Americans offer disclaimers and caveats, contradict themselves, hedge their responses, change their minds, and think things through in real time, end quote. There's a complex spectrum of beliefs between a man with a bullhorn outside a Planned Parenthood clinic preaching sin and the domestic terrorist who recently threw Molotov cocktails through the window of a Madison, Wisconsin pro-life organization on Mother's Day. Recognition that women always have and always will face choices affecting their babies was a common thread among the Notre Dame study participants. In that sense, all Americans are pro-choice. We just draw boundaries around the choice at different stages or for different reasons. Less than a tenth of abortions are related to the extreme situations of rape, incest, or problems with the health of mother or baby. Pregnant women need real alternatives if they are to have real choices. Fournier has a national vision for Covenant Homes and Resources as one of those real alternatives, with 3 programs. The first to launch is Safe Housing for Pregnant Women. In addition to the Spokane House, Fournier is in talks with 5 other locations around the country to support groups who are active at abortion clinics but who need a place to send women who choose life. Quote, "Our focus is on saving a life and creating generational change, not on stopping abortion," said Fournier. The second initiative, supporting homeless youth, will be starting outside of Washington. Quote, "We want to be able to intervene when the problems start at age 12, said Fournier, and I found Washington's system makes starting a faith-based program difficult." Children raised in chaos may appear to be managing well, but adolescence often tips them into drugs and other negative coping behaviors. Fournier is currently looking for a site in Idaho. Third is a low-income home ownership program similar to Habitat for Humanity, but focused on restoring houses rather than new construction. Her successful side business, flipping houses, is another facet of her life preparation. Quote, "God showed me places in Spokane 20 years ago that are still boarded up," said Fournier. "We want to be about restoring lives and properties now and for future generations." Just imagine the additional lives that could be transformed if all the energy going into passing around stereotyped memes, swallowing fear-mongering news, and joining angry protest went instead to supporting pregnant women with real choices. The silent majority of Americans need to climb out of their labeled boxes and start real conversations. So the emailed response to that column was uniformly positive, which means either the critics have stopped reading, but I doubt that, or Covenant Homes and Resources has found common ground. Focus on giving women real choices. As one correspondent wrote, "Supporting pregnant women with choices could be a life-saving decision for them. I lived in a community that did that by offering a home-like setting for pregnant girls to live until after their babies were delivered. It was truly successful, as I remember. Alternate solutions for pregnant women should be supported by the citizenry." End quote from that correspondent. And I agree, Joy, we need more choices for women and more support. Support doesn't mean government programs always. Americans have always supported a wide variety of nonprofit organizations as part of our safety net. Private programs, and yes, many of them are faith-based, have the ability to provide real relationships, love, and concern in a way that's just not possible from a necessarily bureaucratic government program. Here's the interview with Karen Fournier, and apologies for the sound quality. Sometimes Zoom recording is wonderful, and sometimes the connection leaves much to be desired. Links to Covenant Homes and Resources webpage will be found on the end card after the interview for more information, or if you want to support healthy choices for women in tough situations. Also, I'll include the website for Naomi, which is still operating. Wonderful testimonies from some of the women who have made it through that program with their children and have now been able to establish healthy lifestyles with stability and breaking that generational cycle of chaos. Thank you for joining me on this forthright. Yeah, remember that you can always subscribe on Substack for notifications on new content. Okay. So Karen, it's nice to get to visit with you again.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to somebody who's really doing something about, directly caring for women who find themselves in a difficult pregnancy situation, just when there's so much arguing going on, and really losing sight of we're losing sight of the women at the center of the controversy.
Right.
But you had said after the column was published that there were a few things that needed clarification, and I certainly want to give you an opportunity to do that. I cringe every time I print something quoting people because it's like, I hope I got it right. And so what needs to be clarified?
Well, it wasn't in any of the quotes, so the quotes are good. And it was kind of just a little bit of wording, maybe even. It said women of any age we can service and we cannot. So we can do over 18 or under if they're signed off by the parents to be placed there by them, or if they're 16 and emancipated.
Right.
So have to either legally be adults or be signed off by the parents to place in our care.
That's right. I know I've had other ministries, Teen Challenges, they have programs for adults and youths all across, actually internationally, but they've not been able to provide their youth program in Washington State because of the way some of our rules are written. So
most of those, I think we talked about, the cycle is in the state of Washington for youth, well, for under 18, because some programs called youth still 18 to 24, which confuses me. But so for under 18, what's my train of thought? Oh, the cycle is they want us to just call the police or anybody, you know, if you find a youth on the street, call the police. The police call the parent, typically the single mom. The mom says, yes, I want Johnny back because she's getting a welfare check.
mm.
And this is what we found over my 10 years. So police take him home, run the next day because of drugs or issues, whatever issues are going on in the home. So there has to be some place that I would think they would allow us to circumvent part of that.
Yeah, it's a touchy thing to figure out. There are parents that are not fit and
Right.
are and at some point the child has they're actually exercising good judgment, taking themselves out of that situation. But then if we assume that all parents are unfit, well, then we stray the other direction and we interfere with parents who are really trying to do their best to take care of a kid who's got issues. And yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah. And our thing is, you know, we're faith-based. So we either need the system to work with us, which they don't, or we want to be outside the system to be able to run our homes the way we have the vision for, and believe that it's a better way. So we just mainly want to be outside the system. And I think I mentioned to you, I've been invited to go speak at legislature about it because I was one of those youth. I was deemed incorrigible at like 14. And I remember being in the car with my parents going to take me someplace. But back then, this was early 70s, late 60s even. And those were not places you wanted to be in. You know, they were not the family type homes that we did. And I jumped out of the car on the way. And so I've kind of been learning everything. But now I'm trying to give back and help them get out of situations that I had found myself in over
your lifetime. And I know that you'd said to me that you were got sober at 30 and saved at 40, and you're giving back to those who are still stuck in that path.
Right.
Yeah.
So that leads me to the next thing, was becoming a single mom. And so thankfully, so the article said, kind of again with just wording, it said homeless single mom. So thankfully I wasn't homeless when I was a single mom.
Oh, good. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. I heard you.
Fit to get to clean and sober before I had kids.
Good.
So they actually grew up helping me in the ministry. So my kids are very empathetic, and they were ministering to even the moms and the kids at 10. So they have a lot of compassion and
Yeah.
wide.
Well, it's still not easy being a single mom, even if you are not homeless.
Right, right. Yeah.
I know I have a good friend who's, because of her husband's disability, she's somewhat operating like a single mom. And I've I've been helping. We decided her kids are my godchildren, and we're sort of,
Right.
I'm a backup for her because she need a sounding board as a parent. Am I going or what do I do?
And especially as a single mom, you need not just backup, but confirmation for your decisions, especially from other single moms. So I'm kind of a mentor in a younger single moms group. And, some of the stuff I say, which doesn't now just come out of my experience, but there's 10 years of, seeing all, you wouldn't believe some of the situations we've seen or heard about that I thought mine was bad, but just horrendous stuff. And so when I give them advice or, situations that I've seen in the past, they're so thankful, And so that group kind of, takes a village, if you will, idea works, which is why we set up our group homes the way we do, because it's like 24/7 group counseling with each other, not so much with us even, because the problem is when we're out there, we all feel like we're the only one that has this problem. And while the situations might be a little bit different, the root causes and the feelings are the same. And so working through those is helpful to have other people in the same situation.
Yeah. I'd like to give you some time to talk a little bit about Covenant Homes as you're getting started. You're very close to being able to open the first house at the same time that you have a larger vision. What are some things that people should know about Covenant Homes and Resources, and how could they help you?
So yes, we're still in the final stages of remodeling, and now that it's spring, most contractors are busy. So I've asked them. We have some that have worked with us over the last year, here and there, when they could or when we had fun. Some of them still, after COVID, I realized, like even Lowe's in donating materials said our sales are down so far because of COVID still. We can't donate as much. And so we found that we always try to get the materials donated and then the labor donated as much as possible. Everybody's sales and income is down, so that's been really difficult in the last year. We just have kind of one major thing, the small deck that we need to, that I really want a contractor for. A couple of guys have said they could do it. That's kind of a serious issue, so that you really need to know that somebody's doing that knows what they're doing. And then a few things inside the house, not huge things, a couple of the guys I said, if you could just stop for an hour on the way home and do this. So we have, like I say, 5 things that we've done. But it's just been really a challenge to have people come in.
Yeah, and I know you've had experience flipping houses, so this is not new, but the pandemic threw some extra wrinkles at it.
Right. And also too, because we're new and we're not open yet, there hasn't been a lot of advertising or news about us, or nobody really knows who we are. And because we're not open, a lot of people are taking a wait and see kind of attitude. And so we're kind of in a catch-22 that we can't, the donations aren't coming in to pay, and people are wanting to wait to see if we are going to succeed before they donate. So it's kind of a catch-22 where we can't get open because we're not known, basically. Or, then it takes a while to get them to know I have a history in this too. that would help, that we were successful, very successful at hotels, now Naomi. And
Yeah, you do
yeah,
have a track record of success in this field. This is just a different focus than the Hearth Homes Naomi project was.
right.
Okay, well, I know that I've been impressed by talking with you and listening to the stories of the women who have come through the Hearth Homes and with whom you have worked before. One of the things that stuck with me was how the women who were coming into the Hearth Homes, now Naomi, had described themselves as being 13 going on a 13-year-old and a 30-year-old body, because the brain stops really emotionally developing once someone starts drugs, and that they just needed to go back and really living in stability instead of chaos.
Right, right.
That's
And
really
the part of what we found is it takes 4 to 6 months for them to just feel safe to even talk to us about anything really going on in their life. I mean, we know basically the overview, but maybe not the history of abuse or familial abuse, or how far this really goes up in generations possibly. And it could be, it ranges from physical, sexual to just mentally and emotional abuse, which is, usually all connected, but sometimes it's just that. And in the Hearth Homes at the very end, when I was there, probably 2011, 12, we had a mom that was my first third generation homeless. Third generation. She had never lived in a house. She had been kidnapped twice. She was 19. She had 3 kids, well, 2 kids and pregnant. And just horrendous stories, really underweight. Not really on drugs so much, a lot of drinking, but, most people would have said mentally unstable. And she was dealing with CPS and they wanted to take the kids, and they said, give us 6 months. And they did come and take the baby when she had the baby in the hospital. They didn't tell us they didn't do, and I was really angry. But she stayed for probably a year and a half. She didn't get that baby back. Actually, that baby was adopted by her aunt, so stayed in the family. But she's parenting her 2 other kids. She has a full-time job. She has a car. She is living fairly normally, working with us too. But this aunt has a baby, so she's still growing up with her knowing she's her mom. And I think they live within a few blocks of each other. So, it's kind of the best situation we could have hoped for. But and that one time I talked about at the event, we went to city council for a grant, and we didn't get a grant, but we took kids with us just to show, I guess, how behaved they are. We didn't know really how they were going to act. We had one in a stroller, probably 18 months, and we had to wait an hour and a half. And the mayor said, well, we can tell how the program works by how well adjusted the kids are. And I said, and I guarantee you they were not like that in the game. So it is really, like you said, all about generational change, not just for them and not just for the baby, but really lifelong, for these kids and their kids. We've seen now, Sarah, the mom that spoke, her son has a baby now. And so I really can see generational change now in the grandkids of moms that we have. It's phenomenal.
That's so important, to interrupt that cycle and give them a vision.
Right.
Karen, I know I'm personally going to stay connected with your group because I think it makes such a big difference, and I'm glad that we've been able to visit and get acquainted. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you.